First today, one of the world's most important international terror suspects has been shot dead in the Philippines. Police say the bomb maker and Jemaah Islamiyah mastermind, Roman Al-Ghozi, who escaped from a Manila jail in July, was gunned down by security forces on the southern island of Mindanao. Al-Ghozi, born in Indonesia, was a senior JI member, training and supplying weapons to operatives connected to Al-Qaeda.
A month earlier, fingerprint tests invalidated Al-Ghozi's first death. So let's recap. Bali, the so-called JI mastermind of the Bali bombings, received CIA training during the Afghan War, was secretly captured and handed over to the US, and apparently remains in US detention, having never stepped foot inside court. Fauzi Hasbi, an Indonesian military intelligence agent who treated Bali as a son, was disemboweled in a mysterious murder just after he was exposed as an intelligence agent. His son, Lamkaruna Putra, died in a plane crash a month after being interviewed by SBS's Dateline. Then there's Omar Al-Faruq, the man who trained with Bali in Afghanistan under the CIA and who met with Fauzi Hasbi in December 1999. Despite the fact that Farouk was rendered from Indonesia by the CIA and provided all prior knowledge of the Bali bombings, he was denied to Indonesia for questioning. When Farouk was summoned to appear in US court, the Bush administration claimed he had escaped high security prison. 1 year later, he was apparently killed in Iraq. It might also be interesting to note, it was later exposed that the CIA had monitored the JI meeting chaired by Bali in January 2000, 2 years before the bombings. One month prior to the bombings, a former Indonesian state intelligence chief spoke out to the respected Tempo News magazine. Former State Intelligence Coordinating Board Chief AC Manilong has said that Kuwaiti citizen Omar Al-Faruq, a terrorist suspect who was handed over to the US, is a CIA recruited agent. Al-Faruq was assigned to infiltrate Islamic radical groups and recruit local agents within these groups. When Al-Faruq finished his assignments, the CIA created a scenario that he had been arrested, Manilong told Tempo News. Manilong made this analysis based on the pattern used by Al-Faruq, that of having Kuwait citizenship but holding a Pakistani passport, entering Indonesia as a refugee and marrying an Indonesian woman. After the CIA obtained complete data on this matter, they then made Al-Faruq disappear. It's common in the intelligence world, said Manilong. Manilong said he considered several matters in the arrest of Al-Faruq last July to be odd, such as the denial of National Police Chief General Day Bakhtiar over the police's involvement in Al-Faruq's arrest, and the lack of official documents in Al-Faruq's handing over to the US. This kind of operation is aimed at starting conflicts in Indonesia and creating the image that Indonesia is a land of terrorists. The Council on Foreign Relations peace continued. Both Indonesian and US interests would be advanced through greater cooperation in the war on terror. America cannot tolerate half measures or Jakarta's attempts to obscure the existence of international terror networks on its soil. Prior to the Bali bombings, the Indonesian government opposed America's so-called war on terror. President Megawati strongly opposed American anti-terrorist military operations in Afghanistan and denied the existence of terrorists in Indonesia. The New York Times published a piece 4 days after the Bali bombings entitled "Terror in Bali, Warning to Jakarta." The American ambassador, Ralph Boyce, delivered the latest warning to President Megawati Soekarnoputri and her top advisors just a day before the bombing and gave her a deadline of October 24th to act, the officials said. "We told them, wrap it up, block it, demonstrate that you are serious about eliminating the threat against us," the officials said, declining to be any more specific about what action was expected. After the bombings, the United States of America and the Republic of Indonesia released a joint statement agreeing that terrorism poses a continued threat to international peace and security, and that the two presidents are committed to enhancing their bilateral cooperation in the fight against terrorism. After the bombings, the Bush administration set up a national counter-terrorism unit under the control of National Police Chief General Tia, the man who announced that the FBI had discovered C4 at the site of the Bali bombings, directing blame towards JI. C4 was never included in final reports.
In Indonesia's parliament earlier this year, I found the police chief boasting about how he gets the star treatment when he visits Washington.
Saya kan sudah menunjuk orang, di apa West Wing-nya. West Wing. Saya dulu ngomong dengan Colin Powell di kantornya ke Pentagon. Coba. Direktur CIA, Direktur FBI, 5. Itu saya ketemu semua.
Baru datang ini katanya.
Sering ketemu beliau sini. Baru ketemu mana Pak? Amerika.
Dari Amerika. Dengan
dapat senjata baru Pak? Lebih.
Senjata kita juga. Belum dis.
10 juta Pak. Oh, kita sih besar terus 10 kecil. Totalnya sekarang saya sudah 50-an loh dari sana. 50 ya? Iya.
The Bush administration handed over various funds to General Tia and the Indonesian military, reconsolidating their power lost after the East Timor massacres were exposed, all in the name of the war on terrorism.
The catch-all phrase